Be warned, this is a true story, recounted in the best detail I can remember, so it is long. Forgive me for being vague / changing a few names and indirectly related details here and there to obscure identities. Between the ages of 16 and 20, I dated a girl that actually lived in her local haunted house. It was a large flagstone farmhouse in a hamlet in the northeast of England. For hamlet, imagine 12 houses and a pub on a hillside. It was only about 10 minutes walk along a country road from the next village, a larger settlement that was originally built to accommodate local miners around the turn of the 20th century. Her house was at the top of the hill and was the oldest building in the area by at least 100 years. To give some idea of the size of the house, after the farm had stopped working and was sold early 1900s, the house had been partitioned into 2 homes to provide accommodation for miners. Later, after the mining company sold out and the miners were leaving, her parents had bought the 2 houses with the idea of renovating them and turning them back into a single very large house. Now her parents weren't wealthy, and so the work on the house had been ongoing for over 10 years, mostly DIY, by the time I started dating her. The place was huge with high ceilings, outbuildings in the yard, rooms in various states of completion, and the whole property was surrounded by old trees. The interior had a strange layout due to the reversed partition. There was one large old staircase on one end of the house, and a newer staircase on the opposite end, built when the building was split. Downstairs were 4 large rooms. One had been kept as a kitchen with original fireplace. The other 3 were in the process of being converted into living and dining rooms. Upstairs were 6 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, along one long corridor with a hatch at each end, leading to a huge attic space that spanned the house. The attic was the subject of local rumor. Her friends from the nearby village would frequently joke about her house being haunted, and would recount various stories about a family who were terrorized by their abusive father, with rumors of suicide or possible murder taking place in the attic on one end of the building. There were also stories of the land itself being haunted due to accidents which had occurred in the mine tunnels beneath the hill. If you're familiar with the old northern mining towns, you'll know that stories of pit disasters are common. There are even entire towns ostensibly named after such incidents. My girlfriend seemed to be quite proud of the fact that living there gave her a reputation for bravery. A haunted house on haunted land was quite a boast, although she often admitted to being scared at times. She'd told stories of seeing and hearing things in the house that made her feel significantly less brave. She had heard footsteps in the attic, and when he lived at home, her older brother claimed to have seen the shadow of a person outside of his bedroom door, directly below the attic hatch. Her father had also said that early on in the renovation, he had removed bothering murals, which were painted on upstairs walls on one side of the house. Although he refused to describe their content, it was always hard to know if their stories were exaggerated for the sake of local gossip, but naturally I ate them up with a spoon. One of the best things about the house, from our teenage point of view, was the fact it was often empty. My girlfriend's brother was living away, studying at university. Her parents were both involved in coaching athletics at a reasonably high level, meaning they would frequently travel to competitions. This gave me a great opportunity to stay over for several days at a time, which I usually did. In general, I found the house creepy, but never heard or saw anything too terrifying, other than the occasional creak or bump, which could easily be attributed to aging architecture. I felt reasonably safe there for a while. As you can imagine, the ghost stories fascinated us all as teenagers, and so one weekend when we were about 18, we invited some friends to stay over with us for a ghost party. Generally, we were wary of having parties, since areas of the house were unfinished, and we really didn't want to piss off my girlfriend's parents and lose our sweet love pad. But we figured that a small one wouldn't hurt, especially now that we were oh so mature. We invited 6 people over and spent the early evening exploring the outbuildings and attic, telling and listening to spooky stories about the house and the area. My favorite tale was that if the crying babies... It was said that if you listened carefully at just the right time on just the right day each year, you could hear the distant sound of babies crying, a spectral memorial to the exact moment a mine tunnels collapsed decades before, killing several miners and triggering tremors that disturbed the local infants. After tiring of ghost stories and fruitless ghost hunting, we ordered pizza, had a couple of drinks each, and by about 1 a.m., we retreated to the most renovated living room to watch TV and drink more. This is when things got scary. One of the girls, we'll call her Sophie, was getting quite highly strung about the normal creaking and spookiness of the house, and requested that someone come upstairs with her and stand guard in the corridor while she went to pee. She left the room with Matt, who clearly had a crush on her, and we all laughed as we heard their footsteps above us, obviously walking past the bathroom and further along the bedroom corridor. Then the door to our living room burst open like it had been kicked in, and both of them rushed in, looking whiter than your white grandma trying to do a rap. Matt blurted that they had seen a shadow at the top of the stairs, and they hadn't gotten more than halfway up. He insisted it was one of us bastards that had snuck up the other staircase to scare them, but even he didn't seem to believe it. We said that we heard footsteps along the corridor, but we hadn't left the room. Surely it was Matt that was trying to scare us. The fact is, we were all scared and none of us quite knew what to believe. We decided to all go up and look around, and so we did, like some kind of desperate group of teens disgorged from a green minivan to hunt old men disguised as ghosts. We crept upstairs. Somehow I think we felt that if we were quiet, we wouldn't anger the ghost. I can be flippant now, but at the time we were all running on 90% adrenaline and 10% alcohol. The tension was palpable, and every creak of the house or sigh of wind at the window had us freezing in place and staring desperately into shadows in the hope of seeing nothing staring back at us. Nothing in my life has felt so dangerous as the seconds we spent sneaking under the attic hatch, hoping it stayed shut. After a few minutes, we had swept the bedrooms and bathroom at one end of the house, and the tension was calming. Naturally, we lads began to talk about how we definitely weren't scared and definitely wanted to catch the ghost. Although this was the opposite of true in my case, it did seem to relax everyone, and a few of us went to check the other bedrooms. I knew that we were heading into the end of the house where my girlfriend's older brother claimed to have seen shadows, and where the murals had apparently been. I wasted no time in whispering this to my 2 companions as we swept the bedrooms and passed furtively under the second attic hatch. It was just as we moved towards the final bedroom that we heard something on the stairs near us, the smaller staircase that was built when the house was partitioned. It was a low creaking sound that started almost like a sigh and seemed to drag on in slow motion. As we all froze and willed ourselves to turn back and look, it could have been the wood creaking. As the house cooled in the dead of night, it could have been the tortured soul of an abusive father coming to reclaim his home. I will never know because I ran first, bolting along the corridor with my brave compatriots in tow, back towards the rest of the group who instantly panicked at the sight of me and ran downstairs. We did what frightened ghost hunters always do, ran straight back to the last room we felt safe, the almost renovated living room, and slammed the door shut behind us. We immediately descended into a panting ramble, talking over each other with unanswered demands. What happened? Did you hear it? Did you see anything? Was it the ghost? Where's Sophie? Did you break my dad's torch? Are you staying over? I need a squad tonight. Wait, where the fuck is Sophie? Everyone froze around me. I don't know, she was with you guys. She was, but she isn't here now, is she? Tia, my girlfriend, was not happy with me ignoring the obvious. She'll not be happy we left her. Matt was cut off by a muffled scream of pure terror, and the sound of feet thundering along the corridor above us. We burst back out of the living room and headed towards the stairs, just as Sophie burst into the kitchen. Through the door opposite, covered in tears and hyperventilating, I saw someone outside. Then you were gone. Where were you? Didn't you follow us? Tia with the pertinent question. I went to the loo. I thought you were right outside. I saw someone through the window and you left me. Evidently, Sophie had decided to take the opportunity to finally go to the toilet, with a whole group standing guard. She claimed she hadn't heard us run, which seemed impossible given how loud a herd of teenagers would be on the old wooden floors of the house. But we were all more fixated in the question of who or what she had seen in the garden. We spent at least 15 minutes peering out of the downstairs windows to no avail, cupping our hands to the glass, peering at every trembling shrub and oddly cast shadow. But none of us could quite bring ourselves to actually go out and look. We couldn't even brave going back upstairs for a better view. Eventually, with the help of cigarettes and alcohol, Sophie calmed down enough to explain that she thought she had seen the silhouette of a bald man passing through the yard area between the house and the outbuildings. Evidently, she had frozen in fear for a moment and simply not realized we were having our own moment of terror in the corridor outside the bathroom. Eventually, we all calmed down and almost convinced ourselves that we had most likely been scared by the normal sounds of the house. Being a skeptic is sometimes necessary to preserve your own sanity, if nothing else. By 3 a.m., we were calm enough to go to sleep, downstairs on the couches in the living room. Nobody was sleeping upstairs that night. In the morning, we woke up a little hungover and shared a smoke and a laugh about the night's events, all secretly relieved to have survived without further incident. We couldn't decide who was the most scared, so we gave up and Tia and I went to make everyone coffee. In the kitchen, the room right next to where we'd slept, the glass in the washing machine door was smashed, and the door hinges were so buckled back on themselves that they were barely holding the frame onto the machine. This, out of everything, was the most chilling moment of the whole episode. We had been asleep in the next room, and I hadn't heard a thing, but the door had clearly been exposed to significant force. How could we not have heard it? Nobody had heard a thing, and everyone claimed that they were sure the door wasn't damaged when we were trying to look for the stranger in the garden. We never really pressed the issue. I think Tia and I were both scared that the more we asked, the more frightening the ignorance of our friends would become. Eventually, we decided to tell her parents that I had slipped and fallen into the machine whilst trying to load it, clumsy, apologetic boyfriend was easier to explain than hysterical party of drunk teenagers, and definitely easier than poltergeist, although both of those latter explanations felt equally likely at the time. I have never forgotten that night. It's the closest I've been to believing in ghosts. Writing it out now, I realize how much of the experience was built on our collective imagination and hysteria. But of the very few incidents we did encounter, one too many remains unexplained for my liking.